Hey, everybody, welcome back to Bite Time. Harry McCullough here. September 2023, we're looking at a new flood map that is going to come out and be the official map. Here to talk about what's good about the map and what's challenging about the map. Here is Chris Pulaski. He's the Terrebonne Parish Planning and Zoning Director. So thanks so much. We'll spend a couple of segments on this because it is kind of an all-encompassing kind of thing. When when we talk about flood, we talk about flood zones. They all seem to change. We've had a 1985. We had it going back to '08. And then recently we had the 2021 map. So there's a bunch of different maps. But the good thing about the 2023 maps, I guess they're going to be called 2023 maps, is that we'll know what we're working with and how to plan a little better. Coming from a guy from the planning.
Right. Well, thanks for having me.
Yeah.
I know this is a complicated topic, and if I start to use too many acronyms,
Sure.
okay? Because
Okay.
we're talking government here. So I think the best place to start is the beginning. So, 1985, we have these flood maps, the BFE, the base flood elevation flood maps. And then in the mid-90s, we had another set of maps, which were the ABFE maps. And then, of course, in 2008, FEMA presented the parish with a new set of flood maps, the DFIRMs, as they're called, Draft Flood Insurance Rate Map. Now, in 2008, those maps that they presented to us did not take into account any of the Morganza to the Gulf system or any of the parish levee systems, for that matter, into account in the computer modeling. And they basically said if it's not core certified, it's like it wasn't there. Well, that, of course, isn't reality. So the parish appealed those maps. So those 2008 DFIRMs, draft flood insurance rate maps, have just sat on the shelf through this entire appeal process. Other parishes did it too, but they eventually worked through it. Terrebonne kept at it. We entered into a process by which we bring in a team of engineers and specialists who then perform their own set of modeling that do include what's been built, and then we present that to FEMA and their engineers, and they review our modeling and see what they agree on and what they don't agree on. Now, through all that time, we were basically, for regulatory, for building permits and things like that, and insurance rates, we're utilizing the older maps, so 1985 or mid-90s. So clearly outdated information, but that's all we had. So we're going back to the 2008. Okay, we're in this appeal process. Well, every 10 years, FEMA is required to issue new flood maps. So 2008, here comes 2018. We're still not there yet through this appeal process. They're still going through all the modeling. So we said, okay, FEMA, what we would like to see is when you issue these new maps, just take all the information that we've been providing you and put it in there. Now, at some point in, I think it was 2019, they had to say, okay, well, we have to cut off what projects you haven't built in the system yet. It takes a while to run the computer modeling. We got to say, okay, from this point on, we're just not able to include these projects. So 2020, of course, because of COVID, that slowed the whole thing down. In June of 2021, FEMA said, okay, Terrebonne, here's a new set of maps. We did take into account all of the process, the appeals that we've been working on over the last 12 years or so. But when we reviewed it, they were still missing some information. Sure. So they said, no, guys, it's not there yet. So then they went back to the drawing board, came back in October of 2021 with these new maps. Now, I don't know about you, but I know what I was doing in October 2021. I think everybody was pretty busy in October of 2021. So there was a public comment period that for 90 days they held, and there were very few comments. We just kind of monitored with FEMA what was going on, but now FEMA's at the point where they're saying, okay, we have these maps. They're October 2021 is the date when you look on them. That'll be the date. But they are, as far as FEMA is concerned, they're finalized, but they will not go into effect until September 7th, 2023. So between now and that time, we as a parish need to review them in a public hearing format so that the parish council can formally adopt those maps.
Is there a chance you appeal it again?
Well, the appeal process, as far as the parish's appeal, is over because they finalized those maps.
I got you.
But what I want to talk about in the next segment is if somebody, what does it mean for people?
Right.
What do they need to be on the lookout for? And if they have a disagreement with how their property is being shown on those maps, what can they do?
But the benefit is that if people can plan now, right? If you're a business or whatever, right?
There are definitely some good points about having finalized flood maps. It takes a lot of uncertainty out. I mean, for years, that's been an issue for businesses, businesses in Terrebonne looking to expand, businesses outside of Terrebonne looking to come in. It makes it difficult, any type of uncertainty like that. And then for our residents themselves, I mean, when you're looking at moving or buying a new home, I mean, it'd be one thing to know, is it going to be in a flood zone or is it not going to be?
Right. And can I transfer this if somebody buys my house, or are they going to get stuck? That kind of stuff. No, it's a tremendous issue for anybody around this area, and for the history, for the future, as far as real estate values and all that. So, how do we prepare, and how do people maybe call you and say, "Man, I've never flooded. Why am I in the flood zone?"
Yeah. So I think the first thing people need to do is look at the maps. So. You can view them a number of different ways. LSU Ag Center, if you just Google LSU Ag Center flood maps, they've been having the flood maps on there for the last couple of years. FEMA's official location, I think, is www.msc.fema.gov. Or you can call 877 FEMA MAP, and they'll tell you how you can go about seeing it. And basically, you just enter your property address, and it'll take you to it. But what does all that mean? I think, first of all, you'd want to talk to your insurance agent to see, what sort of impact does that have on your property today when those maps become effective, which is September 7th of 2023. That's going to be important. But for the future, what that means is, let's say you were not in a flood zone, and now all of a sudden you are. Okay, well, number one, you need to check with your lender to see what are they going to require that you obtain flood insurance, or is it going to be one of those things that you're grandfathered in until something triggers the requirement? And what would trigger that requirement? Well, let's say another storm comes along and you have damage to your home, whether it's flooding or wind, it doesn't matter. It's just the cost of the repairs. Are you substantially damaged is what FEMA wants to know. And what does that mean? Well, that means if the cost of the repairs are more than 50% of the value of the home. Regardless of whether it was wind or rain or flood, it doesn't matter. But if you are below the base flood elevation, or you were in an area that wasn't a flood zone and now is, when you do make those repairs, if you are below base flood, you're going to have to elevate it to whatever the new base flood elevation requirement is.
And that's today's repair cost, not
correct. And here's the thing:
they
look at it. It's not just a one-time deal. It's over a cumulative 10-year period from the date of the
numerous
storm.
Storms too.
So okay, in Ida, if you had $200,000 worth of damage, okay, well now you've got X number of dollars left before you get to that 50% mark. So you got to be aware of that. Also, risk rating 2.0 is another real kicker in this thing, because now with the way that they calculate risk, it really almost takes the flood maps and the computer modeling and the data out of it. And they're just looking at essentially just how close you are to the water.
To any kind of water.
And for us, that's everywhere. And it's not just Terrebonne Parish. I mean, Terrebonne Parish is part of the Coalition for Sustainable Flood Insurance, which is ever increasing. I mean, these are problems that people are having in New Jersey, New York, South Carolina, Texas,
The whole
Mississippi,
coast
the whole Gulf
has
Coast.
people on.
We're also, talking with people who are in riverine states like Arkansas and people
Right.
upstream. I mean, ultimately it's going to be the type of logic that's going to have a much larger impact, and I'm not sure if FEMA's really ready for that, or really thought it through. But what's also a bit frustrating, is all of this work that has been, money that has been spent on the Morganza to the Gulf system. I mean, Terrebonne Parish President, Gordon Dove, previous administrations, state legislators, Terrebonne Parish Levee Conservation District, the Morganza to the Gulf Action Committee. I mean, all of these tireless efforts, and of course the people of Terrebonne who tax themselves twice, because we haven't just now we're starting to receive federal funds. So all of this that's gone into it, and it's all worthwhile. I mean, regardless of what the maps say,
Right.
Ida, Delta, Zeta, I mean, go back and since
Barry,
Gustav
yeah,
Ike,
yeah.
Barry, you look at the more recent storms and it's working.
Yeah, it's working.
But the maps, we're going to keep working to push FEMA on, how these maps, how things are calculated, how risk is calculated, whether it be 2.0 or some other version that comes along, or the maps themselves. People do have, if you are certain after you go look at those maps that there's got to be something wrong with this information, there are ways individual property owners can appeal FEMA. The appeal doesn't come through the parish. It's you have a licensed surveyor, land surveyor, prepare this application that then gets submitted directly to FEMA, and FEMA will, review everything around it, and then they'll issue, if it's a letter of map revision,
Right.
is what they call it.
But again,
But that's
one of them things, it's
Right.
like having a lawyer, right? I mean,
Right.
you got a surveyor, and who's going to get that? The guys that are connected some kind of way.
right.
So-
That's why, I mean, I think it's something that there are measures that are going into play as a region where we're looking at better ways to do computer modeling. I'm going to a meeting in Baton Rouge tomorrow for the Louisiana Watershed Initiative. That's a great program that could potentially provide not only Terrebonne, but all the parishes in Louisiana with basically real-time flood modeling that we can be adding into the system. And if we can have FEMA sort of bless that approach, then I think we can do a lot better planning for the future.
Right. We're using AI now on the internet, chat GTP or whatever. You put it in there, and
Right.
we'll get it real time. All right, Chris, I appreciate it, man. That's a lot of good information. Thanks so much. We'll be right back with Bayou Time right after this.